There's a conversation you've had 100 times. You know every line, the perfect thing to say, exactly how it goes, the look on their face when you finally say it. There's only one problem. You've never actually had it. It lives in your head. And it usually shows up around 2 a.m. when the house is finally quiet and there's no one to be strong for, and it just starts playing again. I know that conversation, and I think you do too. And if you're carrying one of those right now, I want you to know you're in good company and you're in gentle hands here. So today, it's just you and me. We're going to sit with the conversations we rehearse but never have, why we do it, what that silence is quietly costing you, and how to finally, kindly close the open loop. I'm really glad you're here. I'm Robin Quinn Keehn, and this is The Liberated Life. Let me tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from so you know you can trust me with this. I've been a teacher for over 30 years, and in that time, I've spent thousands of hours with people, children, families, friends, in classrooms, in masterminds, and in one-on-one coaching, which means I've watched up close and for a very long time how people actually relate to each other, what brings them closer, and what quietly pulls them apart. And I want to tell you something I've learned from watching all of that, something that genuinely surprised me. The thing that does the real damage between two people is almost never the hard conversation. When something finally breaks, a friendship, a marriage, a family that's gone quiet, the thing that actually needed to be said was almost never that big, almost never the unforgivable thing. The damage didn't come from the conversation. It came from the days, months, weeks, or years of never having it, from everything that grew quietly in the silence while everyone waited for the right time that never came. So if you're carrying a conversation like that right now, one that you keep rehearsing and not having, I want you to stay with me because I think it's costing you more than you've let yourself admit. And I promise you there's a way through it that's so much more possible than it feels at 2 a.m. Let's start by naming it because I think you already know which conversation I mean. Maybe it's with your spouse or partner, the thing you've been meaning to say for months or years, the one that keeps not being the right time. Maybe it's your mother or your business partner, the friend who hurt you and never knew it, the team member who keeps crossing a line, the adult child you tiptoe around, the sibling and the thing that's never been said since your parents died. You've rehearsed it in the car, in the shower, lying awake at night. You've typed the text and deleted it. You've practiced your tone so you don't sound angry. You've imagined their defense and then rehearsed your comeback to that, too. And then you don't do it. You let it pass. You tell yourself it's just not worth it, or they'll never change, or I don't want to make it a thing. Now, I want to slow down here because I don't think we're honest about why we avoid it. We probably tell ourselves it's because we're being kind or patient or keeping the peace, but underneath, it's usually fear. And it's worth naming fear out loud because you can't move through something you won't look at. For some of us, the fear is conflict itself, the raised voices, the tension in the room. Our whole body says, do not do this. For others, it's the fear that the conversation will end the relationship, that if you say the real thing, the true thing, you'll lose them. So silence just feels like the price of keeping them. And for a lot of us, honestly, it's the fear of being too much, too sensitive, too needy, too dramatic. So we just shrink the whole thing down and down until we've talked ourselves out of saying it at all. I have a name for what we do in that moment. I call it retreat. It's one of the ways we go sideways under pressure. We pull back, we go quiet, we choose the temporary comfort of avoidance over the temporary discomfort of honesty, and it feels, in the moment, like the safest choice. But here's what I want you to see. That conversation didn't go away. You just moved it inside, and it became an open loop. And open loops don't close on their own. They run in the background. They follow you into other rooms. They wake you up. They interrupt you, and they drain you. So let's be honest about what it actually costs you because I don't think we usually are. And I want to walk through this carefully because once you see the cost, the avoidance stops looking like the safe choice. The first cost is the rehearsal itself. That mental loop isn't free. Every time you replay it, every imagined version, every comeback, every worst case scenario, you're spending real energy on a conversation that isn't even happening. You're exhausted by a fight you never had. You're carrying the weight of the confrontation without ever getting the relief of resolution. It's the worst possible trade. The second is the resentment, and here's the cruel part. The longer you avoid the conversation, the bigger your case against them grows. You start keeping score. Every new thing they do gets added to the file. Little things. Things you'd normally let go start to land like evidence. And then one of two things happens. Either you keep swallowing it till you go numb and don't care anymore, or one day, over something small, it all comes out. 6 months of stored up grievance, all in one breath, or even worse, years. And now you look like the unreasonable one. They're standing there thinking, where is this coming from? It's not such a big deal, is it? And technically, in that moment, they're right because they never got to be part of the small conversation. You had it alone 100 times, and they're having it with you for the first time at full volume. The avoidance didn't keep the peace, it actually built the bomb. The third cost, and this is heartbreaking, is the distance because you cannot be close to someone you are managing. And that's what avoidance slowly turns into. You stop relating to the person and start managing them. You curate what you say. You avoid certain topics, certain rooms, and certain moods. The realness leaks out of it. And here's the thing you have to understand. They feel it. Now, they may not know what it is. They can't name it, but they can feel you pull back. They feel the warmth just go slightly cool. And so the relationship doesn't end in a dramatic fight, or at least most of them don't. It ends in silence, in politeness, in long suffering, in a slow, quiet goodbye that nobody ever announced and nobody ever agreed to. One day you just realize you feel like strangers who share a history. That's the real cost of the unspoken. It isn't drama, it's drift. And there's a fourth cost, and this is the one I care about a lot because it's the one nobody's coming to save you from. It's what avoidance does to you, to your relationship with yourself. But every time you know what's true, and you know what needs to be said, and you swallow it instead, some quiet part of you registers that. Some part of you notices that you didn't show up for yourself, that you put aside your own needs to keep someone else comfortable. And you can only do that so many times before you stop trusting yourself, before you start to believe deep down that what you feel and think doesn't matter because you keep treating it like it doesn't. I wrote a whole book about this because I think it's the hidden tax on a life of avoidance. Every avoided conversation is a tiny act of self-abandonment, and they add up. They become a quiet, chronic sense that you're not living as the person you actually are. So this is the real bill, not just the conversation you didn't have. The energy, the resentment, the distance, and the slow erosion of your own self-trust. That's what the open loop is charging you. Every single day it stays open. So what do we do now? Because I'm not going to tell you to just communicate. That's useless advice. If it were that easy, you would have done it already. Here's the truth I'd stake my whole career on. The conversation is the way forward, not around it, through it. It's the only way forward for any relationship worth keeping or worth improving. There is no version where you avoid the conversation and the relationship quietly gets better on its own. That door does not exist. The conversation you're dreading isn't a wall, it's the door. So let's make it possible. I'm going to give you 4 things: what to get clear on, how to open it, how to stay steady when they react, and how to actually practice it. Stay with me. First, get clear on what you actually want, not the speech, the outcome. Most of the rehearsal in your head is you building a case. I want them to finally see how wrong they've been. But that's not a goal, that's a verdict. And if you walk in to deliver a verdict, you'll get a defense. So before you say a word, you ask yourself, what do I actually want on the other side of this conversation? Do I want to feel closer? Do I want to repair something? Do I want a specific thing to change? Do I want to be understood or to understand them? Get honest about the real goal because the goal sets the tone. You lead with what you want, not with what they did. Second, open it softly. This is so much more important than people realize. The first 10 seconds of a hard conversation decides the next 10 minutes. If you come in with, we need to talk, or you always, You've just put them in a defensive crouch before you said anything real. Instead, open with honesty and care at the same time. First, by the way, I like to ask, is this a good time to talk? Because it's no fun being surprised in a difficult conversation. But then what you can say next is something like, there's something that's been sitting with me and it matters to me enough that I don't want to keep avoiding it. Can we talk? Or, I value this too much to let it drift, so I want to be honest with you about something. You're not softening the truth, you're softening the doorway so the truth can actually get through. Third, expect the pushback and decide right now it's not going to knock you off course. This is the real skill, and I want to name it clearly because this is where most people lose their nerve. The real reason the conversation feels scarier than the rehearsal is simple. In the rehearsal, they say their line and you win. In real life, they don't read from your script. They might get defensive. They might cry. They might turn it around and make it about something you did. They might go cold and shut down. And here's what I need you to know. None of that means the conversation is failing. That's the conversation working. That's what it looks like when something real is finally moving through. Your job is not to control their reaction. You can't. And trying to is what makes you abandon your point. Your job is to stay steady through their reaction. When they get defensive, you don't match it. You stay warm and you stay on your point. When they get emotional, you don't rush to rescue them out of that. You let that be there and you stay. When they flip it, you can say, we can absolutely talk about that too, and I still want to finish what I came to say. That ability to stay grounded and steady while the other person is anything but, that's emotional stamina. And I promise you, it's a muscle. It's not a personality trait that you were born with or without. It's built with reps. Which brings me to the fourth thing, and it's the one that changes everything. Practice. And I mean really practice, not in your head where you always win and they always fold. Out loud, with something or someone that pushes back the way they actually will. That's the whole reason people skills exists, and there are two ways to do it. You can practice with people. Nina and I work with people, live inside people skills, to rehearse the real conversation, find the exact place you wobble, and build that steady, grounded version of you before you ever walk into the room. And you can practice with the app, an AI that does not just agree with you. It pushes back, it gets defensive, it does the thing the real person does. So the calm, clear version of you is the one that's ready when it counts. You can rehearse the talk with your partner, your mother, your business partner, and get a feel for where you stumble, and walk away with a script you can actually use. People, the app, or both. Either way, you walk in prepared instead of rehearsing the same conversation alone for 5 years. The app is free to try, and I'll put the link in the show notes. But hear me on this. The practice is just the rehearsal. The point is not to practice forever. The point is to get ready enough that you finally have it. And one more thing, because I know it's the objection sitting in your chest right now. But what if I have the conversation? It just makes things worse. I want to be really honest with you. A hard conversation, had with care, does not destroy a relationship worth keeping. What it might do is reveal where the relationship actually is. Sometimes you have that conversation and you get closer than you've been in years. And sometimes you have it and you finally see the truth you've been avoiding, that this person isn't able to meet you. Either way, you're better off than you were in the not knowing, because you can't fix, grow, or grieve a relationship from inside an open loop. Clarity is a gift, even when it's not the clarity you hope for. Now, maybe I've named 4 conversations you've been avoiding and you're feeling a little exposed. So let me say this clearly. You don't have to close every open loop this week. You're not behind. This is not a purge. Pick one. Pick the one that's costing you the most, the one that's the loudest at 2 a.m., the one draining the most energy, the one in the relationship that matters most. Just one. First, get clear on what you want. Open it gently. Stay steady. And if it helps, practice first. One closed loop will teach you more than 100 rehearsals, and it will give you something avoidance never will. The evidence in your own body that you can do the hard thing and survive it. That's where the confidence actually comes from, not from getting braver in your head, from doing it once for real. Here's what I want to leave you with. That conversation you keep rehearsing, the one running in the background, draining you in the middle of the night, it's an open loop. And you were never meant to carry it forever. You were meant to close it. Not perfectly, not with the perfect speech, just honestly and calmly and for real. Because the relationship you are trying to protect with your silence is the very one your silence is slowly ending. And the person you keep abandoning every time you swallow the truth is you. The kindest, bravest, most loving thing you can do for them and for yourself is to stop rehearsing and have the conversation. So this week, here's your assignment. Name the open loop, just one. Get clear on what you really want and take one step towards having it, even if that step is just practicing it out loud for the first time. The conversation is the way forward. Honestly, it's the only way forward. I'm Quinn Keehn. Go close an open loop this week, and I'll see you next time on The Liberated Life.